Alright, hello everyone and welcome to NFL Discussion. I'm your host and NFL enthusiast Dougie Doug. In today's episode I'm going to be discussing Thursday Night Football Week 5 of the 2023 NFL season. The Chicago Bears versus the Washington Commanders. And going into this game, the Bears were 0-4 this season and riding a 14-game losing streak from last season. Things were not looking good in Chicago. A lot of negative press. And as for the Commanders, well, they were coming off a loss of their own, but they performed much better, basically going blow for blow with the Eagles. Game 1 into overtime. But again, they lost. But things weren't necessarily as negative in Washington as they were in Chicago. But yeah, with that, we're going to get right into the action. Starting with the Bears, who finally get a win, thanks in part to a huge game from DJ Moore. Justin Fields completed 15 of 29 passes for 282 yards and 4 touchdowns, added 11 carries for 57 additional yards. It was Fields' second 4-score performance in 5 days, making him the first Bears quarterback since Jay Cutler in 2010 to have a pair of 4-score efforts in the same season. Tonight, Fields locked on to DJ Moore and didn't look elsewhere for the most part, watching the wideout embarrass Washington's defense. And speaking of Moore, he caught 8 of 10 targets for 230 yards and 3 touchdowns, and more than just stay hot after dropping an 8-131-1 line on the Broncos in Week 4. He set a new career high for yardage by 73 and amassed the second most receiving yards in Bears history for the single game receiving record. Owning the souls of Emmanuel Forbes and Kendall Fuller, Moore would score from 20, 11, and 56 yards out and had potentially another long score overturned by a doubtful out-of-bounds call. For the 56-yarder, Moore would take advantage of a gambling Fuller, snagging a potential route jumper for a long score instead. It's not an exaggeration to say Moore literally bullied the slight Forbes after the catch. Having now cleared 100 yards in 3 of 5 games, it appears Moore has finally found a quarterback he can produce at a high level with. Washington Commanders. So, defense down bad at the moment. Really didn't. DJ Moore bullied a couple of their cornerbacks, and even with the Bears losing practically all of their running backs in the game, still couldn't stop Justin Fields, still couldn't slow down the offense. And I will give credit to Sam Howell. He did the best he could to try to battle back in the second half, but ultimately wasn't really able to mount much of a comeback. So for Howell's stat line, Sam Howell's stat line to close the game was 37 of 51 passes for 388 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception, adding 4 carries for 19 yards. And with the Commanders down 17-0 at the 14-15 mark in the second quarter and 27-3 at halftime, Howell got 3 quarters worth of comeback game script. The 388 yards were a new career high, and they were produced by spreading the ball all over the Seal Corps. And when I say all over, I do mean all over, as Terry McLaurin and Jahad Dotson somehow accounted for just 10 of his 51 attempts. Downright bizarre that something like that would happen. And Howell was fiercely, and perhaps even foolishly, climbing the pocket into the teeth of the defense and sicking one intermediate throw after another. He wasn't nearly as impressive on his deep throws, his deep shots, which he didn't really connect on anyway. Yeah, those deep shots tended to flutter short. Howell's pocket presence looks very much like a work in progress. He took 5 more sacks this evening, but he is looking as useful as a stopgap for the Commanders. Logan Thomas caught 9 of 11 targets for 77 yards and a touchdown. Thomas also lost a fumble, but in fairness, on the giveaway, he just got caught up in the pile and couldn't get down to the turf. One of his misconnections was an end zone target. Thomas drew 11 of Howell's 51 looks, easily pacing the team. Both McLaurin and Dotson only commanded 5 targets. The Bears were not getting beat deep. Howell seemed capable of getting it there anyways. So they go back for the Bears for a second. Great team win for them. At the very least, they can say they got 1 win for the season. Very curious to see how that momentum carries over. And that's for the Commanders. Bit of a losing streak here. they abandoned the run in the second half, like completely abandoned it. And I understand that you were down and you're trying to make a comeback, but you didn't even try to run the ball. That is something that is certainly going to be reviewed, certainly going to be looked at, and certainly something that probably won't happen again. But yeah, defense down bad, offense down bad, and I talked about Sam Howell being a stopgap, and look, this is a proven season for Sam Howell, and so far, he's proven to be a solid quarterback, but he hasn't proven himself as a franchise guy. I guess we'll see how the rest of the season plays out, but this wasn't as bad as the Bills game, but this was probably his second worst game of the season. I mean, there's only 5 samples. There's only 5 games he's played this season, but I guess out of the 5, this would be his second worst. For now, we'll see how the rest of the season goes. Hopefully it's not too bad. But yeah, the Commanders are currently falling behind in the NFC East. Then again, I don't know how many people are expecting them to be competitive in that division. Anyway, enough rambling on. We'll go ahead and wrap up this episode of NFL Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.